Alright, it's time once again to rank some of the map pack levels. This episode is actually kind of weird, and I'm going to explain why now because it's going to affect the entirety of the episode. Two of the packs in this episode, for all intents and purposes, are probably some of the most boring reviews I will have ever done, and because of that, I will speed through them really quickly, because there really just isn't a lot to say. I'll say more when we actually get to them, but there are just two map packs in this episode that we will be talking about that are just incredibly boring to talk about, and you're not gonna care because I don't have a lot to say, and because of that, there really only is one map pack in this episode that's interesting to talk about. And so I kind of decided as a content creator, I think it would be best if I review two more of the map packs in this episode. So instead of reviewing 3 map packs this episode, we're reviewing 5. To start us off in that realm of really boring to review and not much to talk about, we have Remix Pack 1, just as a whole. Yeah, I'm going to speak more broadly about all of these because there just really isn't a lot to say. This is the first 3 of Neptune's V2 series. You have Stereo Madness V2, Back on Track V2, and Polargeist V2. The problem I have with a lot of these is that realistically they are just worse versions of their corresponding levels. There really is no reason to play these over the actual Rob Top levels. Like, sure, it's a cool little novelty, I guess, but Stereo Madness V2 is not better than Stereo Madness. How do you make Stereo Madness completely boring and have no charm to it whatsoever? Well, remove that aspect of being a tutorial level, you know what I mean? Make it so that the first obstacle in the ship is on the bottom so the player has no time to learn the ship. You just take Stereo Madness and remove the one interesting thing about it, which is that it is basically the perfect tutorial level. Stereo Madness V2 is not that, with very oddly spaced jumps and very unfriendly transitions into sections for easier levels. On the other end of the coin, though, these levels aren't, like, offensively bad or anything either. They really are just slightly worse versions of Rob Top levels that kind of have an uncanny valley feeling to their gameplay. Like, huh? What? That's not right. That's not how that's supposed to work. But aside of that, like, they still feel like something Rob Top could, I guess, have made in, like, a beta version of the game or something. Not something he would have ever stuck with, but these levels definitely do have that Rob Top level feel. The Neptune V2 series will be coming back much later to bite us in the ass, but for now, these 3 V2s are okay. They're not bad, they're not good, they're just alright. And I think all 3 of these, Stereo Madness V2, Back on Track V2, and Polargeist V2, they're all going to get 6 out of 10s. I will say, specifically Polargeist V2, I've always thought was kind of fun. Yeah, this is weird. I don't know why. It's the exact same quality as the other 2, but something about the way the jump rings are placed in this level makes them really satisfying to hit. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks this. Maybe I just like hitting jump rings. I don't know, but I've always liked Polargeist V2 specifically, but yeah, the V2s pretty much are all the same quality. So our next map pack is called the Stereo Pack, and this pack only has levels that use the song Stereo Madness. More like the Blocked in Russia pack. I think this, for me, before we even get into the individual level reviews, is where a lot of the madness started to really set in for me doing these reviews, because I am getting so fucking sick of the Stereo Madness remakes. There are at least, 7 Rob Top levels at your disposal at this point, and you just keep remaking Stereo Madness. Do something interesting. Make an easy version of Cycles or something. Like, Jesus Christ. Just how many levels am I going to play that are basically just beat for beat the same as Stereo Madness? How much of this am I gonna have to do? It's just the same thing over and over again. Dear God, let it end. Easy by Mr. Cheese Tiger is beat for beat the same as Stereo Madness. Did we ever leave the remix pack here? Like, it's not bad, but it's just Stereo Madness again. Like, 6 out of 10, slightly better than Stereo Madness V2 by Neptune. So our next level is Stereo Madness X.
This ain't your grandfather's Stereo Madness, it's hardcore now! Featuring gameplay that can beat Randy Savage's ass using only a Slim Jim. Made by a green user filled with so much testosterone that they made RobTop wait 7 years to release 2.2. Even Zoink gets filled with anxiety when he plays this level because it's Stereo Madness X. This level will steal your girlfriend and you won't care because it's Stereo Madness X. Wear a condom on your eyeballs when you play Stereo Madness X.
I really like Stereo Madness X. I think it is good. I think it's got fun gameplay, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
Stereo Madness V2 by Sumsar plays well enough, I guess, but what the hell is going on with the decoration here? Now, granted, it is cool to see a level that tried to do 3D lines, especially when everything we've been seeing up until this point pretty much looked the same, but honestly, I'd rather it just look the same like everything else, because the 3D in this level is terrible. A lot of the blocks in the level are just straight up missing 3D where it should be. For the most part, it's the same throughout the level. There is just parts where the 3D just ends arbitrarily, but then you also get parts like this where it's just completely missing objects. It's just really ugly and really stupid, and I hate it, and I really wish the creator just didn't bother with 3D because they clearly couldn't do it. Now, ignoring the awful looking 3D, it plays okay. It's another Stereo Madness remake, and yeah, that's really all I can say about it. What's funny here is that our standards are so low that the 3D line thing only really affects it slightly. Like, I'm not kidding when I say that I can overlook these blatant deco errors because I just want levels that are fun and unique at this point. Unfortunately, this level doesn't even provide the fun and unique thing, so, you know, yeah, this level sucks. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Okay, so the next set of levels, the next 3 in particular, the UFO Pack, these are all also going to be reviewed in bulk. I am going to talk about all 3 of these at once because really on their own, reviewing each individual one would be boring and pointless. There are some things I need to say about each one individually, but it's so brief that I really just don't need to call attention to each one individually. All 3 of these levels are effectively the same thing. The idea of these levels is that you have a RobTop level, but you play them as the UFO instead of the cube. And in theory, that doesn't sound like a terrible idea because, I mean, it sounds like a lame idea, but at the very least, it shouldn't play any differently than the normal RobTop levels, right? I mean, sure, the ship parts wouldn't be built for the UFO, so that'd be a bit weird, but honestly, this should be the same, right? Well, no, because there's a major problem with this idea. Okay, so, let me explain something, alright? The UFO falls slower than the cube and doesn't jump as high. It is overall a floatier game mode than the cube. Even if you ignore its ability to jump in midair, which we'll get into in a second, this game mode is just not as heavy. If you just drop the UFO into Stereo Madness, it's gonna feel wrong and it's gonna feel off. You're gonna have moments where you go to jump onto a platform like you would the cube, but because you're the UFO, you jump over the platform and die. This issue also ends up affecting your ability to sight read the level and just in general will make things more annoying. Luckily for us, these are not one-to-one recreations of the RobTop levels. These are built by hand and there's a lot of creative liberties. Most of the parts play completely differently. Okay, so what did I say all that stuff before then? That solves all of those problems, right? Well, no, because even though these levels were built specifically for the UFO, they play like they weren't. They still have the issues you would expect if you just plopped the UFO into a RobTop level. Beyond that, though, there's a plethora of other issues even if you get around the janky physics. Like, for example, the ship parts, they're still the ship. So this level doesn't even adhere to its own gimmick. Now, another massive elephant in the room that you're probably already thinking is the UFO can jump in the air, so how do you keep the player inside of the boundaries of the level? Well, it's simple. You add a fuck ton of spikes above the level. Of course, this is what the level did. There are spikes above the level, and realistically, that should be a good thing because it makes the level functionally work. But the problem with this realistically comes down to how poor the execution was. First of all, the level gets really lazy with it. It really does feel like the creator just made a layout with the cube and switched the game mode, because with there being spikes above the level and with you being forced to take a specific path, you'd expect the level to maybe take advantage of the fact that you're over the UFO a little bit and have some extra jumps in the air. Like, maybe you need to jump twice to make a gap, you know what I mean? Like, do something unique with it, but no. Everything presented here could theoretically be done with the cube. Beyond this, though, there's the other added issue of the spikes realistically were just put there in a very lazy and very scattered way. I don't know how to explain it, but it really just feels like badly boxing in the player, and it just doesn't feel like there was any effort put in. And the reason I say that is because it's possible for you to jump off a platform just a little bit too late, like first half of the platform you miss, so you jump off the second half of the platform. Basically, you know, the equivalent of not buffering a jump with the cube, right? That kind of timing. And if you do that, there's a lot of places where you'll just barely hit the side of one of the out-of-bounds spikes. So the spikes are useless. You have to treat this level as if you're the cube, and that's also a problem because the spikes are ugly as hell and distracting to look at. Luckily, all 3 levels have the option to make the spikes invisible. You should not do that if you beat these levels, because as I mentioned, you can clip into the spikes and die. Thing is, we're still not even done with this. There's another problem. All 3 of the levels, the blocks used to decorate the spikes that box you in, are totally out of place. They don't fit the aesthetic of a early RobTop level at all. In one case, the level literally has invisible block fading. I'd say the one that makes the most sense is UFO on Track, because at least the blocks actually kinda look like the grid blocks that would be used in a RobTop level, but they're colored off so it still doesn't look right. The most visually pleasing one is UFO Geist, and then there's UFO Madness. Okay, let's talk about UFO Madness for a second. Let's say you bit the bullet and you decided to play with the invisible spike trigger, right? You wanted to make the spikes invisible. Well, because this level used the fading blocks, like the club step blocks as I've always called them, if you use the invisible spike trigger, you can still see the fade from the blocks. That is such a basic oversight. I don't know how that got past the creator. All 3 of these levels have received updates in some way, most of them completely unintrusive, and at most you might notice, oh hey, these levels have coins, or UFO Geist has an orange at the beginning of it for some reason, but for the most part, completely unintrusive. UFO Madness, on the other hand, has a key at the beginning that, if selected, adds this face to the level, and it's, like, intentionally distracting. Now, this is funny, admittedly, right? And on an actual, like, enjoyment rating, this doesn't ruin the level, but from a quality perspective, as a reviewer, I have to question why you would do this, because it almost makes it harder to take your level seriously. It's like you do not want your own level to be taken seriously. At least that's the impression I get when levels get updates like this. It's just such a weird decision, and I just wanted to call this out. So yeah, all 3 of these levels, as you could imagine, are 1 out of 10s, and realistically, I have a lot to say about all 3 as a whole, but when you break down each individual level beyond that point, there's nothing to say about them on an individual level. So yeah, they're all 1 out of 10s. If you're curious, UFO Madness is my least favorite, and UFO Geist is my favorite, because at least hitting jump rings adds a little bit of something interesting to the UFO being in these levels. It makes me feel like I'm doing the UFO double clicks. Now that I say that out loud, you could remove the jump rings and these would play exactly the same. Next up we have Dry Out RM. Yeah, this is pretty much just a Dry Out remake, and there really isn't a lot to say about— oh hey look! You find it! It's back. Except this time I'm nowhere near as enthusiastic about having to found it. It doesn't seem that bad on the surface, except at the end of this coin route, you have to jump blindly in the air in a spot that does not look like you have to jump because they're invisible, meaning you can go through this entire coin route without founding it. I'm embarrassed to admit that because I didn't go into the editor, I spent 45 minutes trying to figure out how to make these fucking coins appear, because I didn't think to jump. Aside of that, the level's fine. I mean, yeah, it introduces fakes way too late in the level for it to be intuitive, but it doesn't really play that bad. And also, these coins are bronze, so it really doesn't matter that much if you miss them. The level is mid. It's probably about a 4 out of 10. Next up, we have Hexagon HyperDrive. Holy shit, a level that's not a RobTop remake. Too bad I'd rather play half of the RobTop remakes because there's literally nothing here. Okay, look, this level doesn't play badly or look badly, but on that note, it also really just doesn't play. There isn't a lot of gameplay to be had here. Most of the level is either auto or the easiest ship gameplay you could imagine. It really is just a free level, and maybe you could have some sight reading issues at most, but I really just don't see how anyone would struggle with this one in particular. I'll be totally honest with you guys, behind the scenes I was debating what to do with this level for a while, because on one hand I like that it's a break from the monotony that is all the RobTop level remakes, but on the other hand, it sucks. And I really don't want to do what the GD community did with Tidal Wave by saying, oh, this level's good because it's not Hell-themed, you know? I don't want to say this level's good just because it's not RobTop level-themed, right? I don't know. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about this level, but I think I'm going to go with my gut on this and say that I think this level is boring. I would never go back and choose to play it. This level literally puts me to sleep, so I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. Next up, we have Simple Cloud, and I really like this level. I think if there's one thing I've learned about the map packs so far at this point in doing the series, it's that I really like Polargeist as a level, like way more than I thought I did, because every single time I come across a Polargeist remake, I think two things. I really like this level, and my god, I really like Polargeist and kind of want to go play it now. I don't know why, but it's just a weird thing, and I guess maybe that skews my opinions a little bit, that I like Polargeist remakes more than other remakes because I like Polargeist. I don't know, do with that what you will. Simple Cloud is cool. It's a Polargeist remake with decent gameplay, it looks pretty, and has unique decoration. Even though it plays like a Polargeist remake, it sure as hell doesn't look like one. This level's charming all around. It doesn't really have any issues. I like Simple Cloud. It's a good level. I'm gonna give it a 10. There isn't anything wrong with this level, in my opinion. Next up, we have GoldenClub by Jazor. This is a pretty unique level to come across in the map packs, all things considered. It's not a RobTop remake, first of all, but even when compared to things outside of the map packs, this is just a very interesting and unique RobTop level. There are two flaws with it. The first problem is that there are not one but two really awful ship portal transitions that pretty much require you to have practiced the level. And the other downside to this level is that it is only 42 seconds long. It is less than half the length of a RobTop level. It doesn't even make it through the beginning of Time Machine. It is incredibly short. Basically what this means is that this is a level you're forced to practice, but it's so short that it kind of hurts that you have to practice it. There really isn't a lot to say beyond that point, honestly. It's just a level that looks really decent, pretty unique for the map packs. Unfortunately, it just has some questionable gameplay is all. I don't hate this level. I think it's pretty decent, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So next up we have Dynamic on Track. My fucking god. Alright, what the fuck am I doing wrong here? What? Okay, so I can only survive this if I fall instead of jump, wait, and not jump immediately. Which is, like, not self-explanatory, because you can theoretically make it over this double spike if these two spikes weren't there. And there's a spike here indicating... Why would you design it like that? Any sensible human being would jump like that. And even then, buffering right when you fall, which a lot of people would also theoretically do, would still make it over the spike. Like, this and fucking this looks so natural. I mean, I don't know for sure if you'd survive that, but this definitely just feels like a beginner's trap. This literally feels like it's only here just to be an asshole to the player. Like, there is no reason for this to be like this. And the worst part is this is taking advantage of a very advanced thing in the game's physics that most people won't know about. So, you know, to me, I know why this is killing me, but to 99% of players, they'll just think that they're dying here for literally no reason. This is such a garbage part. What is this? Dynamic on track sucks, dude. Okay, so at its core, this level's biggest issue is that it's incredibly frustrating to play. There are a plethora of reasons, but the best way I can describe what dynamic on track feels like is, you know how up until this point, there have been, not just in the map pack series, but in many of review on my channel, there have been a lot of levels where I've described the gameplay as feeling unstable, like it'll literally break if you just don't do it correctly, right? Well, this level is that if it actually did break on almost every single input if you don't do it exactly how the creator intends. Dynamic on track is fucking horrible, and speaking from personal experience, it's so much worse if you come to this level when you're new to the game, which, I hate to say it, isn't a very unrealistic scenario. The best way I can describe what this level feels like is it feels like a trust fall that failed. Y'all know a trust fall, right? It's where you fall backwards and someone tries to catch you, except this level is like if someone failed to catch you, and you just end up smacking your head off the fucking concrete and dying. That's what dynamic on track feels like to play. One of my least favorite things about this level, though, honestly, is just that the creator ruined it by updating it. I know this could get into a very philosophical discussion of is bad art still valuable and all that kind of stuff, but at a base level, I think bad art is valuable, and going out of your way to ruin your own art because it's not liked just generally bothers me. It generally makes this level feel like a bitter old man complaining about things that haven't been an issue since the Cold War. It's genuinely really fucking ridiculous. Dynamic on track hates buff this more than the average Insane Demon grinder. And my problem with this is, with this text just covering the level, it ends up ruining it, not just in terms of decoration, but to an extent in the gameplay, because it's incredibly distracting. I've seen people die to the ship part because they were really distracted, basically just wondering why the fuck this text is even here. I know some people are going to say that it's just text and it's not a big deal because it doesn't get in the way of the gameplay, but at the same time, how can you take this level seriously now? And this kind of calls back to what I was saying about UFO madness earlier, where it's like, yeah, it might even be funny to some, but it just makes it impossible to take this piece of art seriously because even the creator doesn't take it seriously. But even ignoring that, what bugs me the most about this is that Dynamic on Track has never had a good reputation. Even before this update, it was still known for having this weird, janky, non-functional trust fall gameplay. It's just strange to me that the creator would update their level and actively choose to not make it better and instead make it worse. That just baffles me. Like, why would you do that? For the cherry on top of the shit sundae, the level has a key at the beginning labeled Original Not Working. Now, I know it literally says it's not working, but to a lot of people that probably just implies that it's bugged or something. A lot of people might collect this key to give it a try. As you might expect, it doesn't work. You can't beat the level with this, it's impossible. But the thing is, it didn't have to be, and this is what makes me especially angry. When you collect the key, it gets rid of objects that are required to progress through the level, and the thing is, I don't think these objects were removed in the original Dynamic on Track. I'm pretty sure that they were just removed to intentionally make the original version impossible. I say this because decoration that was supposed to be attached to those original platforms is still there. So even this whole original not working key is pointless because it doesn't give you the original level, because it's not fucking possible. What's especially funny about this is that I tracked down a copy of old Dynamic on Track. Not hard to do, I just searched for old Dynamic on Track on the GD servers. But old Dynamic on Track is interesting to me because playing it, it works fine. There are no issues with it. So why in God's name would you implement a key that lets you play the old version of the level if you broke it? You should be able to fix it. That means the key literally does not give you old Dynamic on Track. But what especially makes me upset is that I actually kinda like old Dynamic on Track. Up until this point, believe it or not, I have never seen it before. I did not know what the old version of Dynamic on Track looked like. This looks kinda cool. I mean, here's the thing, right? It still plays like ass. If we still had the old version of Dynamic on Track, people would still hate it, the gameplay would still be shat on, but honestly, old Dynamic on Track looks pretty cool. I like some of the color choices in the level. I think that the ship part in general looks really cool, especially with this part where you're flying through the bricks. I like old Dynamic on Track a ton. It's just a good level. I don't think it's, like, perfect or anything. I know it's not part of the ranking, but, I mean, if you're curious, old Dynamic on Track, I'd probably give it maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It's not bad at all. The gameplay sucks, but, like, it looks good enough to stick with me, and I'm not against this level. But why that upsets me is because it makes it so much harder to swallow the fact that the creator updated Dynamic on Track and basically just ruined it. In general, Dynamic on Track is a level that I actively hate. I hate the gameplay, I hate the decoration, I hate the update, I hate everything this level stands for. I do think that the update ruined it by a lot, but just in general, the state this level exists in, it's like a decaying corpse. That's this level. This is the decaying corpse of the map packs, and, yeah, I hate this level. It's getting a 1 out of 10. Alright, so that last review was a doozy, and I feel like we need a palate cleanser to sort of calm us down. Luckily, the final level we have to review for this video, and the final level of the Ruby Pack, is Dorabe Basic 5. This level is honestly pretty solid. It's basically just if Hexagon HyperDrive was, you know, not boring, right? Like, this level isn't auto for most of it. This level's very solid. I mean, obviously, it's a Dorabe Basic level, so the level's gonna look pretty basic. And to the level's detriment, there are parts that might be a little too basic, this part literally just looking like a layout. But most of the level looks fine, plays fine. This is honestly a very relaxing level, and I don't mind it. It isn't the best thing I've ever played, and it definitely doesn't match up to Dorabe Basic 4, which has just such an energy to it. Dorabe Basic 5 is okay, though, and I definitely don't mind it. I think I'm going to give Dorabe Basic 5 a 7 out of 10. And with that, we have finished Episode 3 of ranking all of the map packs. This episode, I think we're starting to see some cracks form in the foundation. At the start of the series, you know, the worst levels were just, like, bad. But, like, bad in a very understandable and normal way. But now, we're starting to see fundamental problems with the map packs as a whole. If I remember correctly, this is not a fluke, this is a trend. Things are just going to continue to get worse from here, and things are going to continue to fall apart. But, obviously, that's for us to see in future episodes. For now, though, I'll leave you with this. Comment down below and tell me what levels you like and what levels you don't like in the map packs. Maybe there are levels here that you do like, and maybe you can find something good about Dynamic on Track. I don't know. Probably not. Either way, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.